me so much of what we're really doing here. I got something I want to share with everybody, Dave, but why don't you respond to that first meeting that we had just for a second? I think that there might be some things that come out that people might be interested in.
Sure. Society, only gets better if we each, either bigger levels or smaller levels, do what we can to make it a little bit better. And I really absolutely believe that. And to those who have been given a lot, much more is expected. I've been incredibly fortunate in so many ways, and this last piece I've been, by luck, I've been fortunate to create with others, a lot of other people and capital, to build technology that is truly great. It's my company and our part of the company, but it's great technology that can be used and directed at helpfully connecting people to solve problems. And I look at that as a blessing. I still have to take our technology and license it enough and sell it enough to pay the bills and go forward. But when we run into things like nonprofits who don't have the capital and don't have the means, we can be very, very helpful in bringing the technology and not charging them and hosting it. And hopefully if they get big enough and they can, pay for the hosting and pay for the support, that will be great. That helps out. But until they get there, we can be very, very helpful. So a little bit of dollars goes a long way. But having said that, we believe that even nonprofits and for-profits have to find a way to be sustainable. We don't always want to keep going back and asking for people to keep giving donations and charities, and you need those to get started. In a for-profit business, you call them investors. And the whole idea is to get your investor to help you get started, and then you pay them back. Well, that mindset should be the same with nonprofits. You need foundations and grants and charitable people to help you get going, but in running a nonprofit, I would argue you always need to be figuring out how do we make it so we have to keep asking less and less of them. They might have to keep helping us for a long period of time, but hopefully they help us less. And so we do a lot with these mixes of organizations, nonprofits, governmental agencies, municipalities, big businesses, and we're always trying to find the solution where people are willing to put some money in because they're getting value from it. And so we're still trying to figure out that exact formula at Right Thinking. We're still very, very need donors and grants and foundations to help out because the business model isn't near as clear as starting something like Facebook.
Dave, that's absolutely beautiful. That's the Dave that I know and love. And if you listen to the shows that I told you that Dave's already done with me, that comes out in every single show. And Dave has been such a blessing to me and to Right Thinking, the technology he's got. He's been very kind of humble so far in today's show. His technology is all over the world. I know that he's got huge installations in Australia. He's got programmers in India. I mean, it's an international company, and Dave's background that we're not going to highlight right now is done some of the largest deals that I've ever seen anybody's been involved in. So for Dave Richards and Concursive Corporation to bring Right Thinking Foundation under their umbrella has been just a true blessing to Right Thinking. But it's also a blessing for all the returning citizens that Right Thinking is out there trying to reach. And so I remember in that first meeting, just to be kind of like right to the point, I came up to Dave and I said, Dave, you're a guy that does billion with a B, $1 billion deals, and I just do $1 million deals. And he kind of laughed. Well, as life goes on and we get beat up by the world, a couple days ago I said, yeah, Dave, things have changed a little bit. You're doing $500,000 deals, and I'm doing 50-cent deals. Yeah, but we're still out there trying to give it away, We still want to help other people. So with that said, Right Thinking Foundation has grown tremendously over the 6 years, and the mere fact that a few other people have gotten on board that truly believe in it as much as Dave and I do. Dave was the very first partner of Right Thinking, and the fact that he can talk like he did about best practices and all these other things. See, I'm more of a street savvy kind of a guy that's out there, school of hard knocks, been kicking along. But Dave has gone through a lot of the same stuff I have. He's a hard-working guy. His stories talk about clam digging on boats and things and whatever. He's done his share. He's washed dishes in restaurants, and he's been around. But Dave's also been into prison with me about 16 times, and he's taken an interest in actually doing programs. And he came up with a program, was Win That First Job, and it's interview techniques. And I adopted that into my curriculum that I teach. And where I get this one technique that I give people about when you go for that job interview, you have got to separate yourself from the pack. You've got to get them to engage with you. You might just be a resume there, one of 50 people, but you have to get them to engage. And he gave me a technique that I've been passing on that everybody realizes is, wow, that's fantastic. Just go online the night before the interview and spend 5 or even 10 minutes just looking at the company so that when you're in that interview, you can throw that at the person interviewing you if they haven't engaged with you yet. You can just give them about 2 minutes, and if they haven't engaged, say, I was on the internet last night just looking at the company, researching it, and I saw that your company's been around for 35 years. I mean, I'm really impressed. I didn't know it was been around that long. Well, anybody that's looking at you in the interview, or interviewing you rather, is going to look at you, and what are they going to think? They're going to think, well, maybe there is something about this person. That shows some initiative, that they did some homework and stuff. But that's the kind of thinking that Dave has given me. And so that's just a little tangent. But what I want to say is that, so in the very beginning, Dave took his knowledge that he had, the high-level stuff, and he started giving me presentations to do. And one of those presentations was just my logo. We put that into a slide that he gave it to me. He put together the 3 pillars of success that we all need, and it's on my logo. In order to be able to succeed in this life, you got to have a place to live. We call that home. And you got to have an income. You got to be able to support yourself. We call that work. But you have to be part of community. You have to be connected with other people. And so the logo actually has home, community in the center, and work. It's exactly to the letter what we set out to do. Let me just read some of this for a second so people will understand what Dave and I do together. The vision statement: to help returning citizens to a better life of success at becoming productive, contributing members of society by providing vocational rehabilitation services such as education in the areas of personal financial management, entrepreneurship skills, and job counseling. Right Thinking Foundation will help these unemployed returning citizens who have a job market disadvantage to stabilize their lives by providing a platform through which they can communicate and stay connected with mentors and potential employers in positive ways. Overview: working with returning citizens while in the reentry program to help them in the transition back into society. Using technology to bring people together. Will help returning citizens get employment. Will provide mentors to stay connected with returning citizens. Wynn Lewis, that was on the show, episode 58, on agape love. Wynn is heading up the pilot program at his church that is going to be training the volunteer advocates as we recruit people into Right Thinking Foundation to join using the Connect platform, where we can have community, we can build online communities that will extend from online to outside of online, where we can introduce them to real people as our volunteer advocates work to get them connected with jobs and interviews and things like that. Wynn Lewis, though, is got the program where he's going to be heading up the volunteer advocates. So we're going to be combining people with technology and best practices, as Dave's talking about. And we're going to have people that need a second chance, people that need people to be there for them. We're going to bring it together, that Right Thinking Foundation has a different approach through being able to reach out to people and provide them friendship and community and teach them things that they need to know about how to reconnect with other people. We're going to be using the technology. So Dave, You know, we have one part of the program that I want to have you talk to. You gave me the Right Thinking Foundation model. I've always referred to it as the half pike. The reason for that is it's just a curve that looks like you could take a skateboard into one of those half pike things. God bless you for all that you've done, but talk about how you gave this model to me and how you developed it.
Well, it wasn't me. It was, first of all, you and I did this together. And a lot of this is based on very, very little of what I do or my company does or the people I work with is new. It's just not new. These are all very, very common sense methods and approaches that have been proven successful for hundreds of years. So I believe that the most obvious and successful stuff is the most obvious. So the best practices are things like the golden rule. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to beat. You want to boil life down. Start with the golden rule. And so a lot of the stuff that Steve talked about, this notion of this half pipe, is that it's onboarding people is making them aware, and if they get a little further than awareness, then we try to educate them. So now they're a little bit smarter, and eventually, if people are educated, some smaller number of them become engaged. They really want to do it, and I would argue the final step of engagement is you're really committed. And so this model basically says if we start with 100 people, we may end up inside a prison environment with 5 or 10 or 15 that are really committed. But we might have had to start with 100 or 200. So we aren't claiming that the model can work for everybody or does work for everybody, but if we can find those people and bring them in and get them committed, and they really are committed to changing their life and succeeding, those are the ones that we can help because they have a real shot. You have the time to read, you have the time to atone, you have the time to do those things. Now, assuming that they did that and they got out, what would I do? How would I be helpful as a father? Obviously, I maybe didn't do such a great job the first time if they're serving time in prison, so I would try to surround them with better influences. I would, as we all know, we have cousins that we might surround them with, or we might have good friends and all that. And that, to me, is a core team, people that they might respect and look up to, and I would ask favors. I'd say, would you please help me? I need to surround my son with better influences before because they respect you. So that's, again, this is the most, to me, obvious logical thing in the world. Now, many, many people that are incarcerated and getting out don't have that. They don't have that network that they can reach out to. And so with Wynn and his church and trying to find these volunteers to help, we're trying to find that core team. We're trying to, now we haven't done this before. We've done pieces of it in other aspects of our life, but we're trying to figure out how this really will work. So we have the technology. With the technology, think about it as online technology or mobile technology that can create private groups and invite people in and facilitate communication. We have that now. It's many, many millions of lines of code developed over 15 years. So we're not reinventing technology. We have the technology. Now we're figuring out how will these core teams really work. And that's what we're asking Wynn and his church and his parish and others he knows to help us with. So assuming we get a core team, and assuming that, again, think of a core team as 5 or 6 close people who are willing to spend some time, maybe a lot of it's just virtual or through phone calls or whatever. We then think that if you get a sense of momentum, you kind of want to broaden the group around the returning citizen. And we call them champions, slightly broader group. And you're increasingly trying to surround people with better influences. And then eventually, again, our model is you think about friends and family. Now, friends and family may be part of the core team. It could be that friends and family are not part of the core team because they're not really, maybe they're not helpful, or maybe they've all been disenfranchised from each other. They were either fortunate to be born into a family that helped them early on with education and good influences, or they got it later, an uncle, a mentor, a friend. So we need to break down walls with these people and say, you need help,